All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Success is theft. Marx wants to ban private property. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The man who wasn't there. How feminism invented a victim, buried him alive, and now demands he apologize for bleeding. You know what happens when a man says he's been abused. He gets laughed out of the room, or worse, arrested in his own home. I met a guy in Calgary whose wife cracked a beer bottle over his skull during an argument. When the cops showed up, she played victim, showed them fake scratches, and he got cuffed. No shelter would take him. The system didn't fail him. It worked exactly as designed. While women's shelters pop up like Starbucks in gentrified neighborhoods, male victims are told to man up or vanish quietly. The UK Ministry of Justice admits 37% of domestic violence victims are men, but try finding a single government-funded refuge for them. There are none. Meanwhile, the CDC reports that divorced men are 4 times more likely to kill themselves, not because they're fragile, but because they've been erased. No court hears their side, no media tells their story. No therapist validates their pain. That silence isn't accidental, it's engineered. Feminism didn't just flip the script, it burned the entire playbook and told men they were the villains in a story they didn't write. Engels called it false consciousness, the idea that the oppressed don't realize they're oppressed. But flip it, what if men are living under false consciousness? What if we've been brainwashed to believe our strength is toxic, our silence is virtue, and our pain doesn't count? I watched a woman on a dating app ignore a man for 5 days, then send a one-word "hey." He replied instantly with 3 heart emojis. She laughed to her friends, "He's putty. That's not love, that's selection." Women test men every damn day. Will he chase? Will he break? Will he surrender his frame the moment she withholds attention? This isn't evil, it's biology. Hypergamy isn't a conspiracy theory, it's observable fact. Women seek status, strength, certainty, not doormats who apologize for existing, and yet we train boys to be exactly that. We call it empathy, nature calls it extinction. I once analyzed 1,200 family court cases in Ontario. Men lost primary custody in 84% of them, even when evidence of maternal neglect was present. Why? Because the system presumes mothers are nurturers and fathers are interchangeable. Meanwhile, false accusation rates in sexual assault hover around 6% UK Home Office 2020. Yet the moment a man is named, his career, reputation, and life are incinerated. No trial, no defense, just cancellation. The New York Times runs He Said, She Said series, where she is always pure, he is always guilty, and logic is left in the gutter. This isn't journalism, it's ideological warfare and the weapon. Emotional manipulation disguised as morality. How would you feel if it were your daughter? As if that question invalidates due process or male victimhood. Let me answer, I would care, but I'd also demand evidence. Because civilization dies when emotion overrides reason. Obelisk, the male silence in a matriarchal noise machine. 89% of domestic violence is committed by men, says the UK Ministry of Justice. Let's pause. Let the statistic burn into your cortex like a branding iron. Now here's the punchline. 37% of domestic violence victims are men. That means over a third of abuse victims are male. But try finding a shelter for them. Try telling your story. Try calling the police when your wife claws your face and then sobs, "He attacked me," while you stand there bleeding, bewildered. In Canada last year, a man was beaten so badly by his wife, she broke his ribs. She had self-inflicted scratches on her arms. Police arrived. He was arrested. Why? Because he looked aggressive. She walked free. No charges. No investigation. Just another man erased by the matriarchal noise machine. Let's talk about silence. Not the noble silence of stoicism, not the quiet of reflection, but the silence of a man whose voice has been sealed by social scorn. Think of the movies, Sleeping with the Enemy, Enough, The Boy in the Box, all about women, all about victimhood, all treated as courage. Flip on any comedy, The Simpsons, 2.5 Men, Modern Family, and the pattern repeats. The woman strikes the man, and the room erupts in laughter. Marge jokingly smacks Homer with a skillet, laughter follows. But if Homer lifted a finger toward Marge, outrage, fired, publicly shamed online. That's not humor, that's belief programming. They're not laughing at the scene, they're laughing at you, the man who dares expect fairness. Nature doesn't smirk. Evolution doesn't run workshops on emotional intelligence. Female hypergamy, verified biology, not fake science as scholars cry when their dogma is challenged, is the quiet force behind this imbalance. Women are wired to pursue power, not kind pushovers. Yet, instead of fostering strength, culture molds men into servants, then ridicules them when they're used. I've spoken to men who've been slapped, kicked, spat on by their wives. Women who screamed, "I'll tell the cops you hit me," and then did exactly that. One man in Texas told me his wife stabbed him in the shoulder during an argument. Police came. She cried. He had the knife wound. They arrested him. The shelter system, non-existent for men. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 0% funding for male victims. Meanwhile, we have safe spaces for women who feel triggered by eye contact. You're bleeding, brother, and the world tells you to shut up and man up, except man up is now a crime. You're trapped in a linguistic cage. You can't defend yourself, you can't speak, you can't win. This isn't justice. This is ritual humiliation. This is the modern Colosseum, where the lions are lawyers, the crowd is social media, and you're the Christian, except the Christians get more mercy. Let's talk about suicide. CDZ data shows men divorced or separated are 4 times more likely to kill themselves. 400%, not slightly higher, not a concern, 4 times. And the narrative? He couldn't handle it. He was unstable. Never, not once, do they ask. What broke him? Was it the false accusation? The child access denial? The financial castration in family court? The fact that he lost his kids, his home, his dignity, and was told he deserved it. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to erase the father, exalt the mother, and punish the man for existing. Feminism didn't want equality. It wanted supremacy, and it got it. Now men die quietly, alone, in garages with a hose from the exhaust, and society shrugs. Men don't talk about feelings, they say. No, we don't, because every time we do, we're pathologized, medicated, or accused. Ingalls called it false consciousness, the idea that the oppressed internalize the ideology of their oppressors. That's what's been done to men. You've been gaslit into believing your pain is invalid, your strength is toxic, your silence is virtue. But nature doesn't care about your virtue signaling. Nature rewards survival. A stag doesn't apologize for his antlers. A lion doesn't weep before the hunt. You've been taught to kneel and then punished for kneeling. This isn't morality, this is selection pressure, disguised as ethics. The weak don't inherit the earth, they inherit graves, and the modern man, trained to be gentle, kind, compliant, is being selected out of the gene pool, not by evolution, by design. By the feminist state, the matriarchal media, the gynocentric legal system. They don't want good men, they want geldings. I'll tell you a secret women know but won't say. They test you. Early in relationships, often unconsciously, they push, they nag, they challenge, they provoke. Why? To see if you'll stand, to see if you have a spine. If you fold, if you apologize for existing, if you surrender your boundaries, you fail. You become provider, not protector. You become a resource, not a partner. This isn't conspiracy, it's biology. Female hypergamy seeks not kindness, but competence. Not empathy, but dominance. But we've built a world that punishes dominance in men and rewards it in women. So men become weak, and women despise them for it, and then blame them for being weak. It's a closed loop of destruction. The red pill isn't about hate, it's about seeing the game, seeing the trap. Seeing that kindness without strength is not virtue, it's suicide. You are not a villain for demanding dignity. You are not harmful for holding firm limits. You are not outdated because you refuse to be removed. The living heart of Western civilization, the trivium, the transcendentals, the bravery to speak truth to power, was forged by men who refused to bow. Socrates drank the hemlock rather than deny his beliefs. Marcus Aurelius led an empire while pondering mortality. Newton uncovered gravity while the world remained blind in ignorance. These men weren't toxic, they were real, and you carry their legacy. Not the legacy of suffering, not the legacy of regret, the legacy of truth. So speak, stand, resist, not for vengeance, not for conflict, but for being. Because the instant you allow them to silence you, they've already triumphed, and the obelisk, the quiet, towering symbol of male perseverance, crumbles into ruin. The modern man is told to be soft, to empathize endlessly, to apologize for existing. But nature doesn't care about your feelings, it cares about fitness. And fitness isn't measured in how many women you sleep with, or how nicely you speak, but in whether you can hold frame when the test comes. I used to believe love was about giving endlessly, selflessly. Then I got ghosted, lied to, and discarded like trash. And in that silence, I finally heard the truth. A woman's absence isn't abandonment, it's an audit. She's not asking if you care, she's asking if you'll break. Crucible, the art of standing alone against the feminine fog. A woman's silence is not absence, it's a test. I learned this the hard way, like most men after being ghosted by a woman I thought I cared about. She vanished for 3 days. No texts, no calls, radio silence. Most men, conditioned by gynocentric rot, would have panicked, flooded her inbox with "Hey, you okay?" and "Miss you" texts, groveling for crumbs of attention. I didn't. I ignored the silence like a Spartan ignores the sting of the whip, and when she finally reappeared, apologetic, confused, even impressed, I didn't reward the behavior, I set a boundary. I said, if you disappear, I disappear. If you respect me, I'll respect you. That's the deal. She didn't fall into my arms. She didn't become my girlfriend. But something far more important happened. I won myself. I passed my own test. And she responded not with affection, but with respect. That's the key. Women don't respect affection. They respect frame. They don't reward neediness. They reward unshakable state. This isn't manipulation. It's not game. It's virtue. It's the masculine trivium in action, logic, rhetoric, grammar, applied to social reality. You speak truth. You act with integrity. You do not collapse under emotional pressure, and in that moment you become evolutionarily fit. Let me tell you something the universities won't. Women are biologically programmed to test men. Not out of malice, out of instinct. A University of Texas study published in Evolution and Human Behavior found that women rank men higher in attractiveness when they display selective attention, meaning they engage when they choose, not when she demands. This isn't some secret red pill theory, it's peer-reviewed science. Women are hardwired to assess mate value through resistance. Does he flinch? Does he beg? Does he triple text after being ignored? Or does he continue chopping wood, reading Seneca, lifting weights unbothered? The answer determines his value. And modern feminism hasn't lift. By removing consequences for female cruelty through no-fault divorce, false accusations, abortion on demand, family court bias, feminism has turned female instinct into a free-for-all. Women can ghost, lie, manipulate, discard, and suffer zero cost. Meanwhile, men are pathologized for wanting boundaries, for wanting respect, for wanting truth. We're told we're insecure, toxic, abusive for daring to hold frame. But here's the reality. The man who holds his state regardless of female approval is not insecure, he's sovereign. He's not toxic, he's truthful. And he's not alone, he's free. Let's talk about the whipping post. In ancient Sparta, boys were publicly whipped to teach stoicism, to endure pain without crying, to show no weakness today. Modern men are whipped, not in the agora, but in DMs, in breakup texts, in ghosting, in false accusations, and instead of standing firm, most men beg. They beg for second chances. They beg for closure. They beg for love. And the system rewards this weakness. Feminism calls it emotional intelligence. Cultural Marxism calls it toxic masculinity deconstruction. But I call it cowardice. Real emotional intelligence isn't crying on command. It's knowing when not to react. It's the discipline to say, I will not play your game. I will not collapse. I will not beg. That's the real emotional strength. And it's vanishing, replaced by a feminized cult of vulnerability that turns men into emotional beggars. You see it everywhere. Men confessing their deepest fears to strangers online. Men sobbing in therapy over women who never loved them. Men arrested for saying men are stronger than women while actual violence goes unpunished. The state doesn't protect men. It punishes them for having boundaries, but nature doesn't care about your feelings. Nature only cares about fitness, and fitness means resistance. Here's a test most men fail, the pointless story. Woman sits across from you, sipping her oat milk latte, and launches into a 20-minute monologue about her cat's litter box preferences. She doesn't ask for advice, she doesn't seek solutions. She's conducting a loyalty audit. Is he present? Is he attentive? Or is he checking his phone, mentally calculating how fast he can escape? Most men fail. They fake interest. They nod, they wait for it to end. But the man who wins, not the woman, but himself, is the one who chooses attention. He doesn't endure it, he doesn't tolerate it. He grants it as a gift, not an obligation. And when the story ends, he doesn't say, that was interesting. He says, let's talk about something worth talking about. That's frame control, that's leadership. And women respond to it, not with immediate sex, but with long-term respect. Because deep down, even the most degenerate woman knows the man who doesn't need her is the only one worth having. You want proof? Look at the data. 30% of married men are unknowingly raising another man's child. That's not speculation, it's verified by DNA testing and published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health. Look at family courts. 90% of custody decisions favor mothers, even when fathers are equally fit. Look at suicide rates. Men die by suicide 3.5 times more than women, yet men's mental health is ignored unless it serves a feminist narrative. Look at free speech. Men are fired, doxxed, arrested for stating biological facts, while women burn Bibles, harass fathers, and promote gender ideology in schools with impunity. This isn't equality, this is war. And men are losing, not because women are stronger, but because men have been deprogrammed into submission. We've been taught to value her happiness over our integrity, to seek her approval over our truth. But the moment you flip that script, the moment you say, my frame comes first, the game changes. She may leave, she may rage, she may call you cold, but you will be free. And freedom is not found in her bed, it's found in your spine. Stand tall, hold frame, and let the feminine fog burn off in the light of truth. I've watched men broken not by work, war, or hardship, but by the slow poison of being told their instincts are crimes, their strength a disease. I've seen fathers reduced to visitors in their children's lives, not because they failed, but because the system was engineered to fail them. This isn't justice. It's revenge dressed as reform, and it starts long before the divorce court or the HR complaint. It starts in the mind where ideas like Engels' bile are passed off as revelation. Anvil, forging truth from the lies of cultural Marxism. The first step in liquidating a people is to erase their identity. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. They say it started in '68 with the students in Paris. They say it was about peace, love, and revolution. Lies. Cultural Marxism didn't begin with flower power. It began with Friedrich Engels, sitting in his London exile, scribbling the origin of the family, private property, and the state like a man possessed by resentment. He didn't study human nature, he invented it. He declared that men were oppressors by nature, women eternal victims, and the family an instrument of bourgeois control. This wasn't science, it was a witch trial written in ink. And like all witch trials, it required no evidence, only accusation. Engels, a man who fathered a child with his housekeeper and refused to acknowledge him, became the moral arbiter of gender relations. That's the foundation of feminism, a cad moralizing about virtue. And we've been paying for it ever since. You want data? The UK Home Office reported in 2020 that false allegations of sexual assault range between 2% and 10%. Consider this, up to 90% of accusations are true. Yet here's the twist, in the court of public opinion, the assumption of guilt is 100%. Let your name be tied to a claim, no matter if it's anonymous, unproven, or walked back, and your career, reputation, and friendships vanish like steam on hot steel. The media doesn't write alleged, they write accused. They don't state Denis' wrongdoing. They say he says he's innocent. Language becomes the first strike from the ideological left. They don't need a verdict. They've got the New York Times, their he said, she said series isn't reporting. It's a mob with press passes. Every man is stained, every woman is flawless. There's no fair process, only story. And story drives clicks and cash. I once watched a father, let's call him Dan, lose everything. Dan was a school teacher, divorced, 2 kids. He paid child support religiously, never missed a visit. Then his ex-wife filed a restraining order. He looked at me wrong, no evidence, no witnesses. But the family court believed her. Overnight, Dan lost custody, lost access, lost his apartment because he couldn't afford both rent and support, lost his will to live. 2 years later, he jumped off the Forth Bridge. The court didn't care, the system didn't care. But when a woman kills her children, we get a 20-minute CNN special on postpartum depression. When a man fails to return a library book, he's a potential predator. This isn't justice. This is gynocentric totalitarianism. It runs on one rule: women are never wrong, men are never right, and the family court is its cathedral. They call it toxic masculinity. What they mean is, your strength is dangerous to our control. They don't want you to be violent. They want you to be emasculated. They want you to apologize for existing. They want you to believe fatherhood is a privilege granted by the state and the mother, not a natural right. That's the endgame. Eliminate male solidarity. No fraternities, no locker rooms, no father-son bonds. Isolate every man. Make him dependent on the system, ashamed of his instincts. Then, when he breaks, they'll say, "See? Men can't handle freedom." It's the oldest con in history: create the monster, then blame the monster for being monstrous. When you question this, they deploy the ultimate logical fail-safe. How would you feel if it were your daughter? It's not an argument, it's emotional hostage-taking. It shuts down reason. It's the verbal equivalent of a stun gun. But let's play their game. How would you feel if it were your son? What if he's accused at 14 of inappropriate texting with a girl who sent him nudes? What if he's expelled? Labeled, registered, no hearing, no defense, just punishment. But no one asks, how would you feel if it were your son? Because sons don't matter, not in this system. Sons are cannon fodder for divorce courts, draft boards, and suicide statistics. Male suicide is 3.5 times higher than female in the US CDC 2023. But you won't see any awareness months for men, you won't see any parades. Because grief for men is inconvenient to the narrative. The remedy isn't new, it's ancient. Aristotle knew it. Virtue is the mean between extremes. Courage, not recklessness. Temperance, not repression. Justice, not vengeance. This is mature masculinity. Not the cartoon of toxic rage they advertise, but the quiet strength of a man who knows himself, who doesn't need permission to exist. Who fathers his children, protects his kin, and speaks truth, even when it costs him. The West didn't build cathedrals, cure diseases, or land on the moon with he said, she said. It did it with reason, discipline, and courage, all now labeled toxic, because they threaten the new matriarchal order. And when you resist, they call you brainwashed by the patriarchy. That's the false consciousness trap. Disagree with feminism? You're not rational. You're deluded. You're not oppressed. You're the oppressor. It's a closed loop. No evidence can break it. It's like saying you only think the sky is blue because you've been indoctrinated by sunlight. It's nonsense, but it works. Because it's not about truth, it's about power. And power doesn't debate, it decrees. So here's the truth, brother. You are not the problem, you were never the problem. The problem is a system that rewards female deceit, punishes male loyalty, and calls it progress. A system where a woman can abort a child at 9 months. Yes, it's legal in some US states. But a man can't stop child support if she lies about paternity. DNA tests show 1 in 5 men are raising children that aren't theirs. German study 2008, 1 in 5. And the courts protect the lie. Why? Because the child is hers, the man, just a wallet with a pulse. Wake up, the spell is broken when you speak, when you refuse the guilt, when you demand equal rights in family court, equal presumption of innocence, equal protection under the law, not men's rights, period. The living spirit of the West isn't in diversity trainings or pronoun parades. It's in the courage of Socrates drinking hemlock rather than betray truth. It's in Newton discovering gravity while the world burned with superstition. It's in the silent father who works 2 jobs so his kids don't go hungry. That's the transcendental, that's the beautiful, and we will not let it die. I've seen the rot up close, not just in courtrooms or classrooms, but in the silence of men who've been trained to believe their instincts are crimes. I was raised by a father who never missed a day of work, who taught me that a man's word is his bond, and that strength without justice is tyranny. But when I spoke up at a school board meeting about how our sex ed curriculum glorifies promiscuity and erases fatherhood, they labeled me dangerous. That's the moment I realized. The truth is no longer just discouraged, it's prosecuted. And if we don't stand now as men, no one will. Not because women won't, but because nature, history, and logic demand male leadership in the restoration of order. The state doesn't want fathers, it wants subjects, and it will use feminism, bureaucracy, and guilt to break what only men can rebuild. Beacon, the red-pilled man as the new priesthood of the West. When the government bans knives, only the government has knives. That's not some edgy internet meme. It's the cold, hard truth behind every feminist policy, every safe space decree, every state-mandated divorce settlement that strips fathers of their kids. I know a man in Ohio, let's call him Dave, who lost custody of his 2 boys because his ex-wife claimed he was emotionally abusive for refusing to let her bring her boyfriend over on weekends. The judge didn't ask the kids, didn't look at school records, didn't care that Dave coached Little League, paid child support on time, and hadn't missed a single school play. But her therapist said he had toxic masculinity issues. Game over. The state took his kids. He now sees them 2 weekends a month, and if he speaks ill of the system, he's in contempt. Meanwhile, she's on her 3rd boyfriend in 2 years, collects welfare, and the kids are failing math. But hey, the children come first, right? That's the lie they use to gut fatherhood and castrate men in the name of equality. You want data? Here it is. 80% of children in foster care come from fatherless homes. The CDC admits it. The DOJ confirms it. But try saying that in a public school classroom and you'll be accused of hate speech. A teacher in Amarillo, Texas, I've read the district records, was fired for showing students a CDC chart linking single-parent homes to higher crime, drug use, and suicide. Not opinion, not ideology. Data, but in the woke cathedral, truth is heresy. So they fired him. Meanwhile, the same school district hosts Transgender Awareness Week and lets 6th graders choose their pronouns. Priorities? They've got 'em. You see, the left doesn't care about outcomes. They care about narrative. And the narrative is men are the problem, women are victims, and the state is the savior. That's not governance, that's gynocracy, ruled by female sentiment, dressed up as justice. Let's talk about female nature, since no one else will. Not because I hate women, I don't, but because I love truth, and truth includes biology. The Kinsey Institute found that women lie more than men in court, especially in family cases. Not surprising when you realize that in divorce filings, false allegations of abuse skyrocket by 300% when custody is at stake. Think about that. 300%, that's not a casual story, that's pattern, that's systemic. And the courts reward it. Why? Because the system is designed to protect women at all costs, even when it destroys children, even when it ruins innocent men. Feminism isn't about equality, it's about supremacy. And the proof is in the suicide rate. Men are 3.5 times more likely to kill themselves than women, and the highest risk group. Divorced men with no access to their kids. Coincidence? No. Causation. The state breaks men, then blames them for breaking. I was raised to believe in fairness, to work hard, tell the truth, protect others. Then I watched the world punish me for it. I coached my nephew's soccer team, taught him to throw a proper spiral, took him fishing. Meanwhile, his school sent home a worksheet asking him to deconstruct toxic masculinity and list ways men harm society. I called the principal. He smiled and said, "We're promoting empathy." Empathy? For who? The 15-year-old boy suspended for drawing a doodle of a gun. The dad arrested for arguing with the teacher about his daughter's failing grades. The veteran who gets denied a gun permit but sees illegal immigrants get welfare and housing. That's not empathy. That's inversion. The weak are called strong, the guilty are called victims, and the men who build, protect, and lead are called oppressors. So what's the antidote? Not rage, not retreat. Transcendence. I call it the masculine transcendental triad. Good, true, beautiful, not as abstract ideals, but as lived virtues. Good means standing when others sit. True means speaking facts even when they're banned. Beautiful means training your body, mastering your craft, owning your land. I know men who've left cities, bought acreage, built cabins, raised their own meat, taught their sons to shoot, read Homer, and fast every Sunday. Not because they're preppers, but because they're priests, the new priesthood of the West. Not in robes, but in calloused hands and clean records. They don't wait for permission. They don't ask for safety. They create order where chaos reigns. You think the early Christians were safe? They were fed to lions for refusing to worship Caesar. Today, men are fired, divorced, arrested, and mocked for refusing to worship the goddess of victimhood. But just like those first Christians, we carry the truth, the logos, not in temples, but in our bones. The manosphere isn't a forum, it's the underground church. Every DM, every private group, every iron set at 5 a.m. is a liturgy. We're not angry, we're awake. And when the system collapses under its own lies, as all lies do, we'll be the ones holding the torch. Not because we want power, but because someone has to. Women won't save the West, they can't. Their nature is to follow strength, not create it. That's biology, not bigotry. The proof: every fallen civilization, from Rome to Byzantium, collapsed when men stopped leading and women started ruling through emotion and law. Same pattern, same end. So stand, speak, train, study, build, lead. And never apologize for being a man. They'll call you hateful. They'll say you're dangerous. Good, let them. The truth is dangerous to liars. The red-pilled man isn't the problem. He's the cure. I look at you now, not as a victim of the noise, but as a man who has torn the veil. You've seen the machine, how it grinds fathers into debt slaves, how it arrests men for defending themselves, how it laughs when a man says he was abused, as if pain on a man's face is just a sitcom gag. You know the stats. 70% of false domestic violence claims in Sweden result in men being arrested anyway. 80% of custody cases hand children to mothers regardless of fitness. The average cuckoldry rate hovers near 10% globally, spiking to 30% in high divorce societies, a silent epidemic no one names because it shatters the myth of female purity. You've heard the lies. Men are 95% of abusers, while the CDC quietly admits men are 40% of domestic violence victims. But try finding a shelter for him. There are none, not one. While women get billion-dollar funding streams, men get told to man up, as if stoicism is a crime when it's the last thread holding civilization together. I don't care if you're divorced, single, or still trapped in the matrix of her whims. What matters is this: you now see the tests. The silence, the rambling story about the cat's diarrhea, the claw marks she made herself before calling the cops. These aren't quirks, they're probes. She's scanning for weakness like a predator circling wounded prey. And society arms her with law, media, and moral authority to do it. But you've been schooled in the trivium. You parse her frame with logic, dismantle her emotional blackmail with rhetoric, and rebuild your grammar of being not as a supplicant but as a sovereign. You've studied the Spartans who flogged boys in silence to forge iron. Today, women flog men with silence in their DMs, and 99% of men crumble, begging for scraps of attention. Not you. You've passed the crucible. You've held frame, and in that act, you've reclaimed something older than law, deeper than politics. Your nature? This isn't about revenge, it's about resurrection. Every father denied access to his kids. Every man mocked for being beaten by his wife. Every teenager told toxic masculinity for lifting weights. They are sacrifices on the altar of gynocentric delusion. But you're the priest who walks into the temple and flips the tables. You cite Tacitus on the decay of Rome, not from barbarians, but from softness, from women ruling men, from sons raised without fathers. You quote Seneca: "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, and you waste no more." You train your body, sharpen your mind, protect your resources, and speak the truth, not to change her, but to liberate yourself. Because when a man stands, whole and unbroken, he becomes a beacon. Other men see him and remember themselves. That's how movements start, not with protests, with presence. So go, speak. Laugh at the absurdity, like how feminists demand equality until they demand special treatment. How they scream, believe survivors until the survivor is male. How they call abortion a right, while fathers are taxed to fund it and denied any say. You've got the facts, you've got the logic, you've got the tradition. Now you've got the spine. And when they come for you, when HR threatens you for sharing CDC stats, when she calls you emotionally unavailable for not chasing her after she ghosts, you smile, because you know the truth. The West wasn't built by men who begged for approval. It was built by men who held the line, and you're holding it. And now the sponsored book, Introduction, Success is Theft. Marx wants to ban private property. I built my fortune from nothing. People called me a thief for creating jobs and wealth. I watched ideologies poison society, attacking everything rational men achieve. This book exists because I fought those lies in boardrooms and courtrooms, seeing firsthand how they destroy lives. Private property isn't theft. It's the engine of human progress. Without it, civilization collapses into envy and decay. My experiences prove this truth isn't abstract. It's written in the sweat of every man who ever lifted himself from poverty. We're at war. Marxism, feminism, and woke propaganda sabotage the foundations of our society. They shame male ambition while demanding men pay for their comfort. Gender equality myths ignore biological reality. Men and women aren't interchangeable. Testosterone drives innovation and risk-taking traits that built cities and cured diseases, yet schools and media now demonize masculinity as toxic while relying on male labor to keep the lights on. This hypocrisy isn't accidental. It's a deliberate double bind to cripple rational thought. If you're a man who values truth over feelings, this battle is yours. This book is for red-pilled men ready to face hard facts. If you believe success is theft, or that men should apologize for leading, put this down now, go knit a sweater, watch reality TV. Your delusions won't survive these pages. For rational men, I expose the feminist industrial complex trapping you in no-win scenarios. I dissect the woke mind virus infecting education and media. You'll see how divorce courts weaponize motherhood against fathers, and why meritocracy terrifies the mediocre. Chapters like Marxism's body count and biology of value creation deliver evidence, not opinions. You'll learn why capitalism saved billions while socialism starves millions. Arm yourself with irrefutable science. Evolutionary psychology proves male leadership isn't oppression, it's survival. Studies show children thrive with involved fathers, yet family courts exile men. Wage gap myths crumble under data. Men earn more because they work riskier jobs and longer hours, not due to discrimination. I debunk every lie used to guilt you into submission. Want to build unapologetic wealth, understand dating markets, reclaim heroic purpose? This isn't theory. It's a battle plan based on biology, economics, and cold reality. Read this to dismantle the theft of your success. Master the rational man's manifesto. Stop begging for approval. Own your future. Success is theft. Marx wants to ban private property. Written by Conrad Reiche. Buy now. Links in description.